Shalom, 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 Israel. First, giving honor to the Most High, Yahweh Shai. Move a little bit more out. Again, shalom, Israel. Today's class, we'll be going into the Feast of Purim. It is Esther. Today's class, Unwavering. We'll be going into the story of Esther, man. Revealing some things, man. That's it ain't what it seems. You know, this truth, man. The waters are starting to rise. The understanding is starting to flow. The veil is being lifted. The eye salve is being applied. And understanding is being revealed, man. So with no further ado, let's get into it. Bruce, give me Romans chapter 15 and verse 4.
The book of Romans chapter 15 verse 4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime.
These things were written aforetime. Read.
Were written for our learning.
For what purpose, Bruce?
For our learning.
These things were written for us to gain that understanding, man. For us to gain that knowledge. These were written for our learning. Read.
That we, through patience and comfort of the scriptures, might have hope.
It's time, man. It's time to stop dilly-dallying. It's time to stop lollygagging, man. It's time to really set that hope, faith, and the power. It's time to come back home, come back to the light. But let's get into it, man. Again, we're going into this. Let's get it, bro. Give me the book of Esther, chapter 1, and we'll start at verse 1.
The book of Esther, chapter 1, verse 1. Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus. This is Ahasuerus, which reigned from India even unto Ethiopia, over 120 provinces.
He said 120 provinces. Right? Read.
That in those days, when the king Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan, the palace, in the 3rd year of his reign,
so,
he made.
They say in Shushan, right? So this is the capital of Persia at this moment. Read.
In the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast unto all his princes and his servants, the power of Persia and Media, the nobles and princes of the provinces.
So we're familiar with the story of Esther, right? We say he is the king, right? He has power over the princes of Persia and Media, right? The nobles. Read.
Being before him, when he shewed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the honor of his excellent majesty, many days, even 180 days. And when these days were expired, the king made a feast unto all the people that were present in Shushan the palace, both unto great and small, 7 days, in the court of the garden of the king's palace.
So this feast that he threw lasted for 7 days, right? In the court of the king's palace, right? Jump down to verse 10.
Verse 10. On the 7th day.
On the 7th day of that feast, read.
When the heart of the king was merry with wine.
So he was full of that wine, full of that liquor, full of that sauce, feeling good, feeling merry. Read.
He commanded Mehuman, Bigtha, Harbona, Bigtha, and Abagtha, the Thor and Carcas, the 7 chamberlains that served in the presence of Ahasuerus the king, to bring Vashti, the queen, before the king with the crown royal. So
the king was in good spirits, man. He got that sauce in the system, feeling good, man. He requested the queen at this time, Vashti, right? Read.
To shew the people and the princess her beauty, for she was fair to look on.
So he was trying to stunt, trying to show off, yeah, man, my queen, right? She's beautiful. I want everybody to see the beauty of my queen, right? Read.
But the queen Vashti refused to come at the king's commandment.
She did what?
Refused to come at the king's commandment.
So she refused to come at the king's commandment. Read.
By his chamberlains. Therefore was the king very wroth, and his anger burned in him.
He said, I requested for you to come. You the queen. I requested for you to come to display your beauty amongst the people on this feast day that I've set up. And you refuse. He's the anger. He's wroth, right? Jump down to verse 17.
Verse 17.
And we'll be going through all 9 chapters, so I'm gonna be jumping around to paint this picture. So read, bro.
For this deed of the queen shall come abroad unto all women.
So this is one of the men that's with the king Osiris, right? Mimicking. I'm gonna pronounce it correctly. Mimicking, right? So he's speaking with the king. He say, for this deed of the queen, disobeying that direct order of the king, for not coming and displaying her beauty, right? Read.
So that they shall despise their husbands in their eyes.
Read it again from the top, verse 17.
For this deed of the queen shall come abroad unto all women, so that they shall
he say this deed, this same spirit that she has, this same spirit is going to fall on the other women to treat their husbands the same way she treated the king, right? Read.
So that they shall despise their husbands in their eyes, when it shall be reported. The king of Ahasuerus commanded Vashti the queen to be brought in before him, but she came not.
Read.
Likewise shall the ladies of Persia and Media say this day unto all the king's princes, which have heard of the deed of the queen. Thus shall there arise too much contempt and wrath. If it please the king, let there go a royal commandment from him, and let it be written among the laws of the Persians and the Medes, that it be not altered, that Vashti come no more before King Ahasuerus.
So he said, if this please the king, right? Let's put this commandment into action, that the Queen Vashti is no longer the queen, because the same spirit she has, she continues to be queen. She's going to display this same spirit. She's going to put this same spirit on all the other women of Persia, all the other women of Media, on all of the other women in these 170 and 720 provinces. Right? Read.
And let the king give her royal estate unto another that is better than she.
So he'd say, let's give what she has to someone that's better. Right? Read.
And when the king's decree, which he shall make, shall be published throughout all his empire, for it is great, all the wives shall give to their husbands honor, both to great and small. And the saying pleased the king and the princes. And the king did according to the word of Mordecai. For he sent letters into all the king's provinces, into every province according to the writing thereof, and to every people after their language, that every man should bear rule in his own house.
That every man should bear rule in his own house, that they should not be subject to the same wrath and anger, to the same disobeying, in a sense, of the queen to the king. That no other man should go through the same thing. Read.
And that it should be published according to the language of every people.
Jump down to chapter 2, start at verse.
After these things, when the wrath of King Ahasuerus was appeased, he remembered Vashti and what she had done, and what was decreed against her. Then said the king's servant that ministered unto him, let there be fair young virgins sought for the king.
He said, let there be fair young virgins sought for the king. So of this 120 provinces that he has, right? He say, let's go and search for these young virgins, right? For these young maidens unmarried, right? Read.
And let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they may gather together all the fair young virgins unto Shushan the palace.
So they want to, of all of these provinces that he's over, they're going to go and grab all of the fair and beautiful women that are unmarried. They're going to bring them in so the king can have his pick of them, right? Read.
To the house of the women, under the custody of Egan, the king's chamberlain, keeper of the women, and let their thing for purification be given them. And let the maiden which pleaseth the king.
Hold up. They're too fast. Slow down right quick for me. Go to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 4 and verse 24, right? So again, right? Osiris is going to grab all of these young virgins, these unmarried women, right? Bring them in so he can have his pick of the litter, right? So we already understand that he wants to change things up. Vashti disobeyed his commandment, so now he wants to get someone else more fair who's willing to listen, right? Read Deuteronomy 4.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 4 and verse 24. For the Lord thy God is a consuming fire, even a jealous God. When thou shalt beget children, and children's children, and ye shall have remained long in the land, and shall corrupt yourselves.
So, Israel is having to be subject to the rule. Israel is having to be subject to having their unmarried, the unmarried maiden called in, right? This king, this is the order he put out. Bring these unmarried women in, right? Bring these young fair virgins in, right? Read.
And make a graven image, or the likeness of anything, and shall do evil in the sight of the Lord thy God.
See, Israel, man, what we've done is we've disregarded the Lord altogether. Disregarded the Lord. So now, what he has done has put us in a lower state amongst all the other nations. Where we should be in a higher position, in a higher status, we at the bottom having to be subject and ruled over, by men that do not seek the Lord. By men that do not want to put their best foot forward for the Lord. They want to have their own gain, have their own gods, have their own customs. We're having to be subject to these men, to these nations, right? Read.
I call heaven and earth to witness against you this day, that ye shall soon utterly perish from off the land, whereunto ye go over Jordan to possess it. Ye shall not prolong your days upon it, but shall utterly be destroyed.
Read.
And the Lord shall scatter you among the nations.
He said what?
And the Lord shall scatter you among the nations.
So for us, by doing this evil act, by us not listening, by us corrupting ourselves with graven images, by us corrupting ourselves by having other gods, by us corrupting ourselves by falling into the lust, by falling into the traps of the world, man, he said he was going to scatter us among all the other nations. And by us not being at high status, by us not being in rule, we're not dictating who we can serve. We're not dictating what we can do for our God. We have to go off the whim of the other nations that's around. Read.
And ye shall be left few in number among the heathen.
Now, give me Esther. Go back. Chapter 2. Let's start at verse.
The book of Esther, chapter 2, verse 5. Now in Shushan, the palace, there was a certain Jew.
A what?
A certain Jew.
Read.
Whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jair, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, a Benjamite.
Okay, so Mordecai was Benjamite. Read.
Who had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captivity.
With what?
With the captivity.
With the what?
With the captivity.
So we just read that, right? By us being disobedient, that our people would have to be scattered amongst the nation, right? So he was brought from Jerusalem in captivity. Read.
Which had been carried away with Jeconiah, king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away. And he brought up Hadassah, that is Esther.
So Esther is Hadassah, right? Her name is Hadassah, but also known as Esther, right? Read.
His uncle's daughter.
His what?
His uncle's daughter.
Read.
For she had neither father nor mother, and the maid was fair and beautiful, whom Mordecai, when her father and mother were dead, took for his own daughter.
So he took her when her mother and father were no longer of the earth. He says, you know what? I'm going to bring you in. I'm going to teach you. I'm going to play that father thing, right? I'm going to play that father role. Give me Psalms 41. No, excuse me. Give me John 15. Start at verse 12. Book of St. John, chapter 15, verse 12. Right, Mordecai took it upon himself to bring her in and raise her. Read it right quick, bro.
The book of John, chapter 15, verse 12. This is my commandment, that ye love one another.
That you what?
That ye love one another.
See, this is love, man, that you saw. That's the Esther, her mother, her father, gone. And you said, you know what? She needs a father. She needs someone to take care of her. You know what? I'm gonna take her in. I'm gonna train her up. I'm gonna teach her. I'm gonna give her everything she needs according to the Lord. Read, bro.
As I have loved you. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friend.
See, this is what he did. This is what he did. He could have had a whole different life. Could have changed his whole different life. But what he did was he said, you know what? I'm gonna be in this woman's life. I'm gonna teach this daughter. I'm gonna give her everything she needs. My mother and father are gone. Right? He said, no greater love than to lay down your life for your friend, than to lay down your life for your brother, than to lay down your life for your sister. Not necessarily, man, jumping in front of the bullet. Putting yourself in uncomfortable positions that you wouldn't normally put yourself in for the betterment of your brother, for the betterment of your sister. Or taking that time that you would have had to put towards something else to get something else done, allocating that to your brother, allocating that to your sister. Being there when nobody else wants to, when nobody else is trying to. Laying down your life, your time. Bro, time is the one commodity we don't get back. So if you giving your time to somebody, bro, that is very precious. Very precious. Because we don't get it back. This is the type of brew Mordecai was. Let's go back to Esther. Back. Give me Psalm 78 and 5. Give Psalms 78. Let's start at verse 5. Let's see what else he did. Read that, bro.
The book of Psalms, chapter 78, verse 5.
So he decided to lay down his life. Take this sister in, man. Fatherless, motherless. Read.
For he established a testimony in Jacob, and appointed a law in Israel.
So he said he established that testimony and he appointed a law, right? Read.
Which he commanded our fathers.
Which he did what?
Which he commanded our fathers.
So in this moment, Mordecai now has become that father. Read.
That they should make them known to their children.
So now it is upon Mordecai. His responsibility now is to make the laws of God known to Esther. To make the laws of God known to Esther. That he train and teach her in the ways of the Lord. Read.
That the generation to come might know them, even the children which should be born, who should arise and declare them to their children, that they might set their hope in God.
That they might what?
Set their hope in God.
See, this is why it is so important, man, to train up that child, to teach and love that child, man, to show them the love of God, to show them how to serve God, to show them how to walk with God, how to be a follower of Christ, how to walk in their life, that they may set their hope in God. Read.
And not forget the works of God, but keep his commandments.
But what?
But keep his commandments.
But what?
But keep his commandments.
At the end of the day, man, to be in order. This is the charge that Mordecai took upon himself when he said, you know what, Esther, I'm gonna be that father. Bro, that's laying down your life. You see, how many of us in Israel are willing to do that right now? How many of us was in the world willing to do that? But it's real love. It's real love. Let's go back. Esther chapter 2. Start at verse 8.
The book of Esther, chapter 2, verse 8. So it came to pass, when the king's commandment and his decree was heard, and when many maidens were gathered together unto Shushan the palace, to the custody of Hegai, that Esther was brought also into the king's house.
So Esther, right, also brought into the king's house, right, again, right? He grabbed all of these fair maidens from all of these provinces that he was over, right, from India all the way up to Ethiopia. Read.
To the custody of Hegai, keeper of the women. And the maiden pleased him, and she obtained kindness of him. And he speedily gave her things for purification, with such things as belonged to her, and 7 maidens, which were meet to be given her out of the king's house. And he preferred her and her maids unto the best place of the house of the women.
So Esther was so fair and beautiful that the king said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and put you in the best place in the palace. I'm going to give you your 7 maidens, man. I'm going to make sure that you have everything you need, because I'm liking on you. I like what you got. Right? But keep in mind, right? Mordecai took the charge upon himself to teach Esther, to train her in the way of the Lord. Right? To show her in the way of the Lord. Read.
Esther had not shewed her people, nor her kindred, for Mordecai had charged her that she should not shew it.
Right? So Mordecai let her know, hey, don't let them know that you a Jew. Don't let them know that you of Israel, right? Don't let them know that. Just hold on to that piece of information, right? Read Proverbs 8 and 33. Proverbs chapter 8 and verse 33. Read that.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 8, verse 33. Hear instruction, and be wise, and refuse it not.
He said what?
Hear instruction, and be wise, and refuse it not.
See, this is Esther taking hold of that instruction, right? It said, train up a child, right? Train that child up. They won't leave. When they get older, they're gonna stick to the script, man. They gonna follow the will of the power. They're gonna teach their children the generations to come that they might know and that they might set their hope in God. They pay it forward. He said to hear instruction, be wise and refuse it not. Go back. Esther chapter 2.
The book of Esther, chapter 2, verse 15. Now when the turn of Esther, the daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her for his daughter, was come to go in unto the king, she required nothing but what Haggai the king's chamberlain, the keeper of the women, appointed. And Esther obtained favor in the sight of all them that looked upon her. So Esther was taken unto King Ahasuerus into his house royal in the 10th month, which is the month Tebet, in the 7th year of his reign. Mm-hmm. And the king loved Esther.
He what?
And the king loved Esther above all the women.
So the king chose Esther, loved Esther above all the women, right? Read.
And she obtained grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins, so that he set the royal crown upon her head and made her queen instead of Vashti.
So Ahasuerus chose Esther to be the new queen, loved her. It's fair to look upon, right? But again, remember, Mordecai raised Esther to serve the Lord, right? So if Esther was raised in the law of the Lord, right? Let's get it before I speak on it. Go ahead, give me Deuteronomy 7 and 3, right? All right, Esther. Now the new queen, right? Ahasuerus, the king of these provinces, right? I went too far. Read that.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7, verse 3. Mm-hmm. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son.
So Mordecai for sure let her know about this, right? So for her to be given to Ahasuerus, but he wasn't no Persian. He wasn't of the other nation, right? Because for her to still be in order, for her to still find grace, that means she had to have not disobeyed the order of God, which means Ahasuerus was Shemitic. Because if he wasn't, she would have been outside of the law. I'm gonna let that sizzle in your spirit for a second. Read verse 4.
For they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods. So will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you, and destroy thee suddenly.
So, for her and Mordecai to have found favor in the Lord, they must have done something right. They must have been in order. The waters is rising. The understanding is rising. The veil is being lifted and the eye salve is being applied. So we've read this story numerous of times. We've seen these same words numerous of times. But we completely glanced over what was really there. This is what the elder was going into, man. Everything is being revealed. Serious, not Persian, not a medium. The man was Semitic. The only way for her to be in order. Matter of fact, go. Give me Ecclesiastes. Right? Give me 30, what was that? 26 and 19. Yeah. Ecclesiastes, the book of Sirach. Chapter 26, start at verse 19.
The book of Sirach, chapter 26, verse 19. My son, keep the flower of thine age sound, and give not thy strength to strangers.
Read.
When thou hast gotten a fruitful possession through all the field, sow it with thine own seed, trusting in the goodness of thy stock. So thy race which thou leavest shall be magnified, having the confidence of their good descent.
See, literally, this is the exact same thing as what we read in Deuteronomy. It's the exact same thing. Again, for them to have found favor in the Lord, for Israel to be brought from under the persecution, for Israel to have been brought back into a status where they can serve the Lord with no issues and problems, somebody had to be doing something right. Come to Israel, I'm going to let it sizzle in the spirit. Let's go back. Go back. Book of Esther. Give me 2. Verse 20.
The book of Esther, chapter 2, verse 20. Esther had not yet shewed her kindred, nor her people, as Mordecai had charged her. For Esther did the commandment of Mordecai, like as when she was brought up with him.
See, again, she was listening, she was in order, right? Paying attention, she was in order. Proverbs 22 and 6. Right? We just touched on it earlier, but I want to get it again. Right? Mordecai. He said he was charged, man, to teach and train her up in the ways of the Lord, so she would not depart, right? Read that, bro.
In those days, while Mordecai sat in the king.
Give me Proverbs 22 and 6. I'm sorry, that's something I thought I talked about. The book of Proverbs, chapter 22 and verse 6.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 22, verse 6. Train up a child in the way he should go.
And he said, train up a child in the way he or she should go, read.
And when he is old,
and when he or she is old, read.
He will not depart from it.
See, this is literally. This was the responsibility that Mordecai was charged with when he decided to bring her into his household to become that father. He taught and trained her up. He let her know, hey, hold up. Don't go out and say you use a Jew. Don't go out and say you use Israel. Just hold on, wait a minute. Hold that information. Keep it close to the vest for right now. Go back. That's chapter 2, verse 20.
The book of Esther, chapter 2, verse 20. Esther had not yet shewed her kindred, nor her people, as Mordecai had charged her. For Esther did the commandment of Mordecai, like as when she was brought up with him. In those days, while Mordecai sat in the king's gate, 2 of the king's chamberlains, Bigthan and Teresh, of those which kept the door, were wroth, and sought to lay hands on the king of Ahasuerus.
So Mordecai, chilling at the gate, heard these 2 chamberlains from the king, man, plotting to lay hands on the king, right? Information, pivotal information Mordecai was privy to, right? Why do you think Mordecai was there at that particular time to hear that particular conversation? Again, if he and Esther was outside the realm of the Lord, why would this information be privy to him? Why would he have very vital information that could, at some point, be very advantageous to the Israelites? Keep it in mind. Keep reading, bro.
And the thing was known to Mordecai, who told it unto Esther the queen. And Esther certified the king thereof in Mordecai's name. And when inquisition was made of the matter, it was found out Therefore they were both hanged on a tree, and it was written in the book of the Chronicles before the king.
So Mordecai brought the information to Esther, right, the queen, brought it to the king Ahasuerus, let him know who it was, and these two, Bigthan and Teresh, hung from a tree, for their tree, right? This was information, right? So Mordecai now, in essence, has saved the life of the king by revealing a treacherous plot of treason, of murder, right? Jump down, chapter 3, start at verse 1.
The book of Esther, chapter 3, verse 1. After these things did King Ahasuerus promote Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, and advanced him, and set his seat above all the princes that were with him.
So this man, come on, not an number. See, we've been shown wrong. Just because he's an Agagite doesn't mean that he's Amalek. Just like you being born in Texas makes you a Texan. Just like you being born in America makes you American. That's not who you are. That's the province. That's the state. That's the country you were born in. Just like the people being born over in Israel right now are not Israelites. They are Israelis. Just like try to call Ruth. Try to say she wasn't an Israelite. Try to say she was a Moabite. She was a Moabitess because that's where she was born. See, bro, the scriptures, bro, we overextend and overdo. This man was not an Amalek, bro. Not from Amalek. But keep reading, bro.
And all the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed and reverenced Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence.
He said, Mordecai bowed not, nor give him reverence. Mordecai say, man, I'm not bowing unto you, bro. I'm not about to give you reverence like all these other people are doing, bro. I'm not about to do that. For the simple fact, give me Acts 5:29. Let's see what type of brew Mordecai was, man. Read it when you get there, bro. Acts 5 and verse 29.
The book of Acts, chapter 5, verse 29. Then Peter and the other apostles answered and said, we ought to obey God rather than men.
See, that's what type of brew you was dealing with Mordecai. He obeyed God. He followed God. Because if he didn't, he wouldn't have instilled those same morals in the daughter that he brought up in Esther. He wouldn't have instilled those same morals in her daughter. She wouldn't have been in order. She wouldn't have had favor. This is the type of brew Mordecai was, man. He said, I'm going to serve the Lord. I'm going to serve the Lord. Not about to bow down to man. Let's go back. Start at verse 3. Chapter 3, verse 3. No, start at verse 2.
The book of Esther, chapter 3, verse 2. And all the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed and reverenced Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence.
Because he's serving the Lord rather than man. Read.
Then the king's servants, which were in the king's gate, said unto Mordecai, why transgressest thou the king's commandment?
He said, what?
Why transgressest thou the king's commandment?
He said, why transgressest thou the king's commandment? He said, I serve the Lord, not man. Read.
Now it came to pass that when they spake daily unto him, and he hearkened not unto them, that they told Haman, to see whether Mordecai's matters would stand. For he had told them that he was a Jew.
For what?
He had told them that he was a Jew.
So now Haman knows that Mordecai is a Jew, right? Read.
And when Haman saw that Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence.
So because Mordecai understood, bro, we ought to obey God rather than man. I'm not about to bow down in reverence to you. Read.
Then was Haman full of wrath, and he thought Then he thought scorn to lay hands on Mordecai.
He thought what?
He thought scorn to lay hands on Mordecai.
All because he decided not to show reverence and bow down unto you. He thought to lay hands on Mordecai. Read.
Alone. For they had shewed him the people of Mordecai.
Well, he did what?
They had shewed him the people of Mordecai.
So these people, man, showed Mordecai. Showed him the Jews. Showed the people of Mordecai to him. Read.
Wherefore, Haman sought to destroy all the Jews.
He saw what?
To destroy all the Jews.
All because Mordecai decided not to bow down, not to show reverence. He decided to obey God rather than man. Come on. Decided, you know what? I'm going to take it out on everybody. Everybody got to get it. I don't like it. Now he got it out for you. Read.
That were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus, even the people of Mordecai. In the first month, that is, the month of Nisan, in the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast Purim.
They did what?
They cast Purim.
He said they cast Purim. Now, Purim, this comes from Haman. This is what he wanted to put in play to get rid of all of the Jews. Again, he said he had disdain. He hated them. He wanted to get rid of them. He wanted to destroy them. This is what Purim is. Read.
That is the lot before Haman from day to day and from month to month to the 12th month, that is the month Adar. And Haman said unto King Ahasuerus, there is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of thy kingdom.
He's speaking about the Jews. He's speaking about Mordecai and his people. These people are scattered abroad amongst your provinces. Read.
And their laws are diverse from all people.
He said what?
Their laws are diverse from all people.
He said these people, man, that are in your provinces, in your kingdom, bro, their laws are diverse from what you have. Their laws are diverse from what you're telling everybody else to follow. Read.
Neither keep they the king's laws. Therefore, it is not for the king's profit to suffer them.
He said because they don't want to listen and follow your rules, I don't think it's possible to keep these people around. He was trying to establish that he's trying to destroy Israel. He's trying to get into the ear of the king to see, you know what, since they don't want to follow you, I don't think it's advantageous for you to keep them around. Read.
If it please the king, let it be written that they may be destroyed.
He say, if it please the king, man, let's go ahead and put that order out to get them people out of here. Go ahead and get rid of them. Do away with them. Read.
And I will pay 10,000 talents of silver to the hands of those that have the charge of the business.
He say, I'm even put money in your hand to destroy these people. I'm going to put money in your hand, man, for the Israelites that you kill, for the Jews that you kill. Read.
To bring it into the king's treasury. And the king took his ring from his hand and gave it unto Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the Jews' enemy.
The what?
The Jews' enemy.
He said the enemy of the Jews, right? Come on, right? Decided to put Purim into action. The destruction of the Israelites, the destruction of the Jews. Jump down to verse 13.
Verse 13. And the letters were sent by post into all the king's provinces to destroy, to kill, and to cause to perish.
So all these things were written in the letter, right? They say to destroy, to kill, to cause to perish all the Jews. This was written in that letter. This was written in the letter, man. This is what Purim was about. Read.
Both young and old.
You say what?
Both young and old.
Both young and old. Everybody got to get it. Read.
Little children and women. In one day, even upon the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month Adar, and to take the spoil of them for a prey. The copy of the writing for a commandment to be given in every province was published unto all people.
He said this copy, man, was published to all people in the province. Right? Read.
That they should be ready against that day. The post went out, being hastened by the king's commandment. And the decree was given in Shushan the palace. And the king and Haman sat down to drink. But the city Shushan was perplexed. When Mordecai perceived all that was done, Mordecai rent his clothes and put on sackcloth with ashes.
So what Mordecai did was after he noticed that these letters were sent out, right? He put on that sackcloth, very stripped, put on that sackcloth, and he cried unto the power. Cried unto the Lord. Read.
And went out into the midst of the city, and cried with a loud and bitter cry. and came even before the king's gate. For none might enter into the king's gate clothed with sackcloth. And in every province, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, there was great mourning among the Jews.
So in every province that the Jews were in, they were mourning because now they understood in this letter that they are to be destroyed, that they are to be killed, that they are to perish, that this is the decree of curse coming from the king through the influence of Haman. Read.
And fasting, and weeping, and wailing, and many lay in sackcloth and ashes.
Give me chapter 46, verse 1. See, this is the thing, right? In Israel, out of order. Israel was out of order. Did something wrong, they wouldn't have been set up for this advantage. Read that. Psalms 46, verse 1.
The book of Psalms, chapter 46, verse 1. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble.
Because when we are in order, there's no reason for us to worry. There's no reason for us to be antsy. There's no reason for us to think about the bad side when we already in order, man. The only thing that's going to happen, bro, is what needs to be happening. That's going to be advantageous for us. When something bad happens or some situation pops up, guess who's well prepared to handle it? You are. Because when you're in order, bro, God is that very present help in trouble. Because now you are critically thinking your way out of it. You're not being reactive. You're able to have a sound mind. Think everything through. Think every action through. Put everything in place. This is what's going on. This is what's about to transpire, man. Through the hands of Mordecai and Esther. So if they did something wrong, how could Israel have not been in a good position? I'm going to keep harping on that because I want you to understand we have been taught wrong. Go back. Start at verse 4. Chapter 4, verse 4. Esther.
Book of Esther, chapter 4, verse 4. So Esther's maid and her chamberlain came and told it to her. Then was the queen exceedingly grieved.
She was exceedingly grieved because now she's seen and heard that there's a decree sent out to kill, to destroy, for her people to perish. All through the manipulation of Haman on the king to put her into action. Read.
And she sent raiment to clothe Mordecai and to take away his sackcloth from him, but he received it not. Then called Esther for Haman, one of the king's chamberlains, whom he had appointed to attend upon her, and gave him a commandment to Mordecai to know what it was and why it was. So Haman went forth to Mordecai unto the street of the city, which was before the king's gate.
Because again, he was in sackcloth, so he was not able to come in to speak to Esther. So she sent someone to go and speak with him. Read.
And Mordecai told him of all that had happened unto him, and of the sum of the money that Haman had promised to pay to the king's treasury for the Jews to destroy them.
Every Jew, man, this is the money that's going to be destroyed. That's going to be destroyed first among the Jews being destroyed. Read.
Also he gave him the copy of the writing of the decree that was given at Shushan to destroy them, to shew it unto Esther, and to declare it unto her, and to charge her that she should go in unto the king to make supplication unto him, and to make request before him for her people.
Remember, right? She did not let Ahasuerus know she was a Jew. She held that information. She withheld that information. All on the commandment, on the instruction, on the wisdom brought from Mordecai. But who do you think put that spirit on Mordecai to tell her that? Again, if they were out of order, these steps were not being put into play. But remember, the Lord orchestrates all of this. Read.
And Haman came and told Esther the words of Mordecai. Again Esther spake unto Haman, and gave him commandment unto Mordecai. All the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces do know that whosoever, whether man or woman, shall come unto the king into the inner court, who is not called.
He say any man or woman that comes into the inner court without the calling of the king, read.
There is one law of his to put him to death.
He say, so the law for you breaking, the consequence for you breaking the law popping up unannounced in the king's court is death. Read.
Except such to whom the king shall hold out the golden scepter.
He say the only ones that have favor are the ones that are presented the scepter from the king. Read.
That he may live. But I have not been called to come in unto the king these 30 days. And they told to Mordecai Esther's word. Then Mordecai commanded to answer Esther, think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house.
He said, think not that you yourself going to escape in the king's house. Think that you're not going to escape just because you up there with the king. You the quote-unquote queen now. Read.
More than all the Jews. For if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, then shall their enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place. But thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed. And who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this?
He say, man, just because you're there don't mean you're going to get away. Just because you're there don't mean it's going to pass up, bro. We all are in danger. We all are in danger. This right here, bro, it comes for all of the Jews. They seek to destroy the Jews, man. Haman put into action. Give me 2 Timothy 1. Okay. Read that, bro.
The book of 2 Timothy, chapter 1, verse 7. For God hath not given us the spirit of fear.
He said, God did not give us the spirit of fear. Read.
But of power.
But of what?
But of power.
Read.
And of love. And of a sound mind.
See, this is what's about to be put into action, man. Lord didn't give us that spirit of fear. He orchestrated all this. He put all of these pieces into play. Again, remember, Mordecai had the information of the two people, Bigthan and Teresh, that were seeking to take the life of the king. He was privy to that information. He gave that information to the king. These two men that were in cahoots to have treachery upon the king were hung. Mordecai, when he gave that information, the king will not be still the king. He has favor. He has a dog in the fight. Read. Let's go back to Esther. Chapter 4 and start at verse 15.
The book of Esther, chapter 4, verse 15.
Matter of fact, start at 14.
Verse 14. For thou, if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, then shall their enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews.
He say, if you hold your peace, I know you distraught. Hold your peace. Don't run off to the king just yet. Hold your peace. At the end, man, it's deliverance for us if you just hold on. Take heed. Read.
From another place. But thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed. And who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such time as this? Then Esther bade them return Mordecai this answer. Go, gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me, and neither eat nor drink 3 days.
They say fast, man. I want you to, and all of the people that are in the province, man, I want y'all to fast. 3 days. I want y'all to fast. 3 days, man. Don't eat nor drink. Fast. Read.
Night or day. I also and my maidens will fast likewise.
They say we gonna also fast. Myself and my maidens, we gonna fast as well. Read.
And so will I go in unto the king.
He say, so will I go in unto the king? Because again, hopping into the king's court unannounced is punishable by death. Read.
Which is not according to the law.
See, which is not according to the law of the king established that if you pop up unannounced without receiving that scepter, man, you are to receive death. Read.
And if I perish, I perish.
He said, and if I perish, I perish. Read.
So Mordecai went his way, and did according to all that Esther had commanded him.
So let's see if Esther, hold up, before we get there, give me Psalms 28 and 7. Before we get there, give me Psalms 28 and verse 7. Read that, bro.
For the Psalms, chapter 28, verse 7. The Lord is my strength and my shield. My heart trusted in him, and I am helped. Therefore my heart greatly rejoices, and with my song will I praise him.
See, this is what they're doing. This is what the Jews are doing, man, when they're fasting and praying, man, for those 3 days. They're putting their hope in God. Read it again, bro.
The Lord is my strength.
Say, the Lord is my strength, man. We're going to fast. We're going to pray, man, night and day. We're not going to eat for these 3 days. We're going to fast. Read.
And my shield. My heart trusted in him.
He said, my heart trusts in you, Lord. Read.
And I am helped.
And I am what?
And I am helped.
Read.
Therefore, my heart greatly rejoices, and with my song will I praise him.
So she said, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to fast these 3 days. Me and my maids, man. We're going to fast these 3 days. We're not going to eat. We're not going to drink. I'm going to go into the king. Because I show up unannounced again. Punishment by death. But if I perish, I perish. But I'm going to still cry unto the Lord nonetheless. Give me Esther. Jump down, chapter 5, start at verse 1. So let's see what happened. She decided to fast, and she said, I'm done. I'm going to announce myself unto the king. Read.
Book of Esther, chapter 5, verse 1. Now it came to pass on the 3rd day that Esther put on her royal apparel and stood in the inner court of the king's house.
Again, in the inner court, came into the inner court of the king. Again, unannounced, man, means death. She went on and threw on her royal apparel right after the fast. Right? Read.
Over against the king's house. And the king sat upon his royal throne in the royal house, over against the gate of the house. And it was so, when the king saw Esther, the queen, standing in the court, that she obtained favor in his sight.
That she what?
She obtained favor in his sight.
Even though she fasted for 3 days, body, feet, she still showed favor. She still received favor from the king. Fair to look upon, beautiful virgin. Read.
And the king held out to Esther the golden scepter.
He did what?
The king held out to Esther the golden scepter.
Again, Esther popped up in the inner court unannounced. But the king had so much fairness upon her. She had so much fairness upon her, bro. But the king was like, take the scepter. Because I know my law is set up. I've been in unannounced. You gotta go. Read.
That was in his hand. So Esther drew near and touched the top of the scepter. Then said the king unto her, What wilt thou, Queen Esther, and what is thy request? It shall be even given thee to the half of the kingdom. And Esther answered, If it seem good unto the king, let the king and Haman come this day unto the banquet that I prepared for.
Okay, hold on. You say, if it seem good unto the king, let the king and Haman come unto this banquet that I have prepared for him. Right? To set up a banquet for Haman. There's ulterior motives behind this banquet. So let's get into it. Jump down. Verse 7.
Verse 7. Then answered Esther and said, My petition and my request is, if I have found favor in the sight of the king, and if it please the king to grant my petition and to perform my request, let the king and Haman come to the banquet that I shall prepare for them, and I will do tomorrow as the king hath said. So
again, right, this is what she requested. Since favor was there for the king, she said, you know what, I'm requesting that you and Haman show up for this banquet that I'm going to throw, right? Read.
Then went Haman forth that day joyful and with a glad heart. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, that he stood not up, nor moved for him, he was full of indignation against Mordecai.
He was what?
Full of indignation against Mordecai.
Read.
Nevertheless, Haman refrained himself, and when he came home, he sent and called for his friend, and Zeresh his wife. And Haman told them of the glory of his riches, and the multitude of his children, and all the things wherein the king had promoted him, and how he had advanced him above the princes and servants of the king. Haman said, moreover, Yea, Esther the queen did let no man come in with the king into the banquet that she had prepared but by self. And tomorrow am I invited unto her also with the king.
See, man, he got his head pumped up. She laid the trap. Got him feeling like he the man's. Yeah, man, I was the only one that was accepted into the king and the queen, man. Read.
Yet all this availeth me nothing, so long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate.
He said, all of this means nothing, though, because I seen that punk Mordecai sitting at the gate, bro. The man that did not want to bow down. The man that did not want to show reverence unto me. All of that went out the gate. All of that, me being up there with the king and the queen, just me, man. All that out the window because I see he's still alive. All of that out the window because I seen it. Read.
Then said Zeresh his wife and all his friends unto him, Let a gallows be made of 50 cubits high, and tomorrow speak thou unto the king, that Mordecai may be hanged thereon. Then go thou in merrily with the king unto the banquet. And the thing pleased Haman, and he caused the gallows to be made.
So again, right? Haman had so much hate, so much wrath, man, for Mordecai, but not wanting to bow down and show reverence, that he decided to put her into action, decided to destroy, kill, and perish all of the Jews and all of the provinces. And now, Haman's wife said, you know what, since he's still there, since you don't like him, go ahead and get your gallows made. And then you talk to the king tomorrow, try to have Haman, try to have Mordecai taken out. Give me Deuteronomy 31, verse 6. Read that, verse 31. Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 31, verse 6.
Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 31, verse 6. Be strong and of a good courage.
He said, do what?
Be strong and of a good courage.
Remember, they fasted for 3 days, 3 nights, right? Fasted for 3 days, 3 nights, throwing the prayers up to the Lord, right? They say, be strong and of good courage. Read.
Fear not.
They say what?
Fear not.
Read.
Nor be afraid of them.
See, this is how they were operating, man. Mordecai and Esther, right? They had a plan in motion. Read.
For the Lord thy God, he it is that does go with thee. He will not fail thee, nor forsake thee.
Again, man, for their plan to reach the success they did, which we will read about, they had to have been in order. Because again, it said, be strong and of good courage, man. Fear not, nor be afraid of them. For the Lord thy God, he it is that does go with thee. He will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. I mean, they were doing something in order. Go back. They had to have been in order. Esther, chapter 6, start at verse 2.
The book of Esther, chapter 6, verse 2. And it was found written that Mordecai had told of Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's chamberlains, the keepers of the door, who sought to lay hand on the king Ahasuerus.
Again, we bringing it up, right? The time that Mordecai saved the king's life from Bigthana and Teresh, right? Read.
And the king said, What honor and dignity has been done to Mordecai for this? Then said the king's servant that ministered unto him, There is nothing done for him.
So Mordecai, even though he revealed the plot that these two men were trying to take out the king, that he was not rewarded in any kind of way. Right? Keep that in mind. Read.
And the king said, Who is in the court? Now Haman was come into the outward court of the king's house to speak unto the king to hang Mordecai on the gallows.
So he was there on business, man, to get Mordecai up out of there, right? Read.
That he had prepared for him. And the king's servant said unto him, Behold, Haman standeth in the court. And the king said, Let him come in. So Haman came in, and the king said unto him, What shall be done to the man whom the king delighted to honor? Now Haman thought in his heart, To whom would the king delight to do honor more than to myself?
See, what he did was he got big-headed. He thought the king was referring to him. No. Haman never saved the life of the king. So right now, Mordecai has that favor. Read.
And Haman answered the king, For the man whom the king delights to honor, let the royal apparel be brought which the king uses to wear.
See, now he's trying to, you know what, since I'm the only person that should have this favor, that should have this fairness, right? Let me go ahead and start running all the stuff I want. Let me go ahead and get that royal apparel about you, read.
And the horse that the king rideth upon.
He said, let me go ahead and get that whip that you be riding on. Let me go ahead and grab that young steed, read.
And the crown royal which is set upon thine head.
He said, hey man, let me get my head decked with them jewels, man. Let me get that crown. So let me get that apparel. Let me get your horse. Let me get that crown, man. I need all of that. This is what he's thinking in his mind, right? Read.
And let this apparel and horse be delivered to the hand of one of the king's most noble princes, that they may array the man with all whom the king delighted to honor.
He say, once you get all of these things together, man, give them to your most noble princes, man, so that they may bestow these gifts upon the person whom you have that favor. In his mind, bro, he's trying to set up everything for himself. But what I don't realize is he's now setting up everything, every reward for Mordecai, which is about to receive. Read.
And bring him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaim before him, thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delighted to honor. Then the king said to Haman, make haste, and take the apparel and the horse, as thou hast said, and do even so to Mordecai the Jew.
He said, do what?
Do even so to Mordecai the Jew.
So again, remember, Haman showed up, man, to try to get Mordecai's head chopped off on the gallows. But what he did was set in motion everything that Mordecai is about to receive. And the king told Haman to go and get it ready for the person he hates, for the person he wanted to, for the people he wanted to destroy. Read.
That sitteth at the king's gate. Let nothing fail of all thou hast spoken.
He said, man, you better not miss not one thing you just said. Go ahead and get that apparel. Go ahead and get that horse. Go ahead and get that crown. Go ahead and get the noble princes, man, so we can give this to Mordecai, right? Go back. Deuteronomy 31, verse 6. Read that.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 31, verse 6. Be strong and of a good courage. Fear not, nor be afraid of them. For the Lord thy God, he it is that doth go with thee.
He say what?
He it is that doth go with thee.
Read.
He will not fail thee.
He will what?
He will not fail thee.
Read.
Nor forsake thee.
Well, what?
Nor forsake thee.
He said he will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. Again, Mordecai, all of the Jews in the provinces, Esther, the chambermaid, they all fasted for those 3 days. They all put their faith in the Lord. They all put their hope in God. In the end, the Lord never failed thee. The Lord never forsaken thee. So again, they had to have been doing something right. Let's go back. Esther, chapter 7, verse 1.
The book of Esther, chapter 7, verse 1. So the king and Haman came to banquet with Esther the queen. And the king said again unto Esther on the second day at the banquet of wine, what is thy petition, Queen Esther? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? And it shall be performed, even to the half of the kingdom.
All right, so now the king, girl, is asking, okay, what do you need, Esther? What's the request that you got going on? Talk to me. Read.
Then Esther the queen answered and said, if I have found favor in thy sight, O king, and if it please the king, let my life be given me at my petition, and my people at my request.
He said, let me have my life and my people at this request, right? So now she's about to reveal who those people are. Now she's about to reveal what her life really is. Read.
For we are sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be slain, and to perish. But if we had been sold for bondmen and bondwomen, I had held my tongue, although the enemy could not countervail the king's damage. Then the king Ahasuerus answered and said unto Esther the queen, who is he, and where is he that does presume in his heart to do so?
He say, man, who is the person that think that they just gonna kill you and your people out? Who out here trying to seek harm on my queen, right? The person that I have favor to, the person that's so fair that I done got rid of my old queen for this new queen. Who out here trying to put their hands on you, baby? This is what he asking. Read.
And Esther said, the adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman.
He said, what?
The adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman.
She said, man, the person that's trying to do me dirty, the person that's trying to do me and my people something dirty, bro, it's Haman. The one sitting right there next to you. Read.
Then Haman was afraid before the king and the queen.
Because he already knew the jig was up. His position of favor is no longer there. You seek to destroy the queen and her people. The person he's so infatuated and in love with. Decided to put the crown on her head, right? You seek to kill her and her people. You put out this request. You put out this document, man, per the destruction of the Jews. Read.
And the king, arising from the banquet of wine in his wrath, went into the palace garden. And Haman stood up to make request for his life to Esther, the queen.
So the king stood up, man, went to the garden, man, had to walk it off, had to gather himself, right? Read.
For he saw that there was evil determined against him by the king. Then the king returned out of the palace garden into the place of the banquet of wine. And Haman was fallen upon the bed whereon Esther was.
He said Haman was on the same bed where Esther was, right? So the same person that was already got it out to kill her and her people, right? The king come back, see him laid up on the bed that Esther on. What you think happened? Let's see, read.
Then said the king, will he force the queen also before me in the house?
He say, so you gonna try to take my woman in my house? You gonna try to lie down with my woman in my house? So you already trying to kill her. You already trying to kill her people. Nah, bro, this ain't how it's rocking. Read.
As the word went out of the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face. And Arbor Rd, one of the chamberlains, said before the king, behold, also, the gallows 50 cubits high, which Haman had made for Mordecai, who had spoken good for the king.
Hold up. He say, now he done pointed out, he said, hey man, it's a gallows over there that Haman just built. And he made it to kill Mordecai. Read.
Standeth in the house of Haman. Then the king said, hang him thereon.
He said, what?
Hang him thereon.
He said, them same gallows that you done built to get rid of the person that has favor for the king, man, who saved his life, who's also of the people of the queen, who literally, you were just caught on the bed with. Get rid of him. Hang him. Read.
So they hanged Haman on the gallows.
So they did what?
Hanged Haman on the gallows.
The same gallows, man, that he created, man, to get rid of Mordecai. A brother that was steadfast in the Lord, bro. That laid down his life for his friend, man. That trained up the daughter of Sarah, man, to be in order, to be in favor. Same person that stopped to take him out, man. The Lord said, I will not forsake thee, nor will I fail thee. The same weapon that was created, the same instrument of death that was created to take him out has been used upon this creator. Read 10 again.
So they hanged Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Then was the king's wrath pacified.
He said, then was the king put back in a good state of mind. Because the person that was seeking to kill his queen and her people is out of there. Right? Give me Sirach. Chapter 4, verse 28. Read to me, get that brief.
The book of Sirach, chapter 4, verse 28. Strive for the truth unto death.
What did it say, bro?
Strive for the truth unto death.
So, is Mordecai not striving for the truth? Is Esther not still striving for the truth? Right? They say, strive for the truth. Read.
And the Lord shall fight for thee.
And what?
And the Lord shall fight for thee.
He gonna hang somebody on their own instrument.
And the Lord shall fight for thee.
He gonna get rid of people that's trying to do you dirty.
And the Lord shall fight for thee.
Right? They fasted and they prayed, man. They put it in the Lord's hands. So if they were in fault, how could they have been shown favor? Again, Esther. This was somebody of the other nation, right? King Assur. He was that quote unquote Persian and Median, and if he was a Shemaiah, how was they able to always go down? Because if they were out of order, Israel would have got checked for it. They would have got checked for it. These things wouldn't have been able to transpire. And this is the thing that we miss when we read this whole chapter, when we read this whole book. It's just one screw, man. Just like they were talking about it earlier today, man. That one screw, bro. This. The whole story has a different feel now. Because now you're able to see the whole picture. Let's go back. Read Esther. Chapter 8, start at verse 1.
The book of Esther, chapter 8, verse 1. On that day did the king Ahasuerus give the house of Haman the Jews' enemy unto Esther the queen. And Mordecai came before the king, for Esther had told what he was under her. And the king took off his ring, which he had taken from Haman, and gave it unto Mordecai.
He did what?
And gave it unto Mordecai.
So now he took the ring that he gave to Haman and put it on Mordecai. So now Mordecai can literally, with this ring is the signet of the king. Mordecai can set all different things in place for this. The brother not only saved from death, but put in a position to be able to help his people. Put in position of favor. Put in a position where he can make sure his people is good. Read.
And Esther set Mordecai over the house of Haman. And Esther spake yet again before the king, and fell down at his feet, and besought him with tears to put away the mischief of Haman the Agagite, and his device that he had devised against the Jews.
So she's referring to prayer. She's referring to the slaughter, to the kill, to the destruction, to the persecution of her people that was brought about by Haman. Read.
Then the king held out the golden scepter toward Esther. So Esther arose and stood before the king, and said, If it please the king, and if I have found favor in his sight, and the thing seem right before the king, and I be pleasing in his eyes, let it be written to reverse the letters devised by Haman, the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, which he wrote to destroy the Jews, which are in all the king's provinces. For how can I endure to see the evil that shall come unto my people? Or how can I endure to see the destruction of my kindred? Then the king Ahasuerus said unto Esther the queen, and to Mordecai the Jew, Behold, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and him they have hanged upon the gallows, because he laid his head upon the Jews, his hand upon the Jews.
He said he hung Haman and his house. Bro, everybody got to get it. The whole house, everybody got to get it. Everybody within this household, man, who sought to put their hands on the Jews, who sought to put their hands on the queen and her people, bro, got to get it. Read.
Write ye also for the Jews, as it liketh you, in the king's name, and seal it with the king's ring.
He say, you write this, that the Jews, bro, have no fear of persecution. Have not to worry about being killed. Have not to worry about being slain, man. You write it and seal it with that same ring and seal it in the name of the king. Read.
For the writing which is written in the king's name, and seal with the king's ring, and no man reverse.
He said, may no man reverse what I've just said in play, right? Give me Psalm 128. Start at verse 1. No. Okay. Read that verse.
Book of Psalms, chapter 128, verse 1. Blessed is every one that feareth the Lord, that walketh in his ways.
He say, blessed is what?
Blessed is every one that feareth the Lord, that walketh in his ways.
Read.
For thou shalt eat the labor of thine hands.
For thou shalt what?
Eat the labor of thine hands.
Read.
Happy shalt thou be, and it shall be well with thee.
So if their hands, man, were out of order, bro, they wouldn't have been able to be blessed. Again, if they did something wrong, Lord would have never blessed them. I'm gonna keep hammering in on that because I want you to really see, bro. We have been lied. Even in the truth, man, the veil was still there. But the waters is rising, man. The understanding is being brought out. The knowledge is increasing. Let's go back. Esther chapter 8. Give me verse 11.
Book of Esther, chapter 8, verse 11. Wherein the king granted the Jews which were in every city to gather themselves together, and to stand for their life.
And to do what?
To stand for their life.
Read.
To destroy, to slay, and to cause to perish all the power of the people and province that would assault them, both little ones and women, and to take the spoil of them for a prey.
He said that he granted them power over their life. And anybody that sought to cause harm, anybody that sought to destroy, anybody that sought to slay, both women and children, both old and young, do away with it. The pay would be good. And to take them for a prey. Jump down to verse 17.
Verse 17. and in every province, and in every city, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came. The Jews had joy and gladness.
The what?
The Jews had joy and gladness.
Read.
A feast and a good day. And many of the people of the land became Jews. For the fear of the Jews fell upon them.
That many of the people. Hey, what, bro?
Of the land became Jews. For the fear of the Jews fell upon them.
He said, man, many of the people, man, started to follow the Lord. They seen the favor. They feared the power. Read.
Now in the 12th month, that is the month Adar, on the 13th day of the same, when the king's commandment and his...
Hold up. Give me Proverbs chapter 16 and verse 7. Give me that right quick before we go on to chapter 9.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 16, verse 7. When a man's ways please the Lord, he maketh even his enemies to be at peace with him.
See, man, this, again, if they were in the wrong, if they were outside of the law of God, bro, they wouldn't have been able to have that peace. They wouldn't have been able to be good. They wouldn't have been able to be blessed, but they wouldn't have been able to have the chance to live. They would have been scattered again and destroyed. Old song and dance all over again. Apparently, destroyed. Go back. Now read chapter 9, verse.
The book of Esther, chapter 9, verse 1. Now in the 12th month, that is, the month of Adar, on the 13th day of the same, when the king's commandment and his decree drew near to be put in execution, in the day that the enemies of the Jews hoped to have power over them, though it was turned to the contrary, that the Jews had rule over them that hated them.
Though it what?
The Jews had rule over them that hated them.
He said, turn to the contrary, bro, that the Jews had rule over them that hated them. Everybody that sought to seek, to kill, to destroy, to persecute, to put into perish. They had rule over them. Read.
The Jews gathered themselves together in their cities, throughout all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus, to lay hand on such as sought their hurt, and no man could withstand them, for the fear of them fell upon all people. And all the rulers of the provinces, and the lieutenants, and the deputies, and the officers of the king helped the Jews.
They did what?
Helped the Jews.
Read.
Because the fear of Mordecai fell upon them.
Read.
For Mordecai was great in the king's house.
He was what?
Great in the king's house.
Bro, again, if they did something wrong, how could they have been put into a status where they could help their people? Read.
And his fame went throughout all the provinces. For this man Mordecai waxed greater and greater. Thus the Jews smote all their enemies with the stroke of the sword.
He said what?
The Jews smote all their enemies with the stroke of the sword.
Read.
And slaughter and destruction, and did what they would unto those that hated them.
Jump down to verse. Jump down to verse 12.
Verse 12. And the king said unto Esther the queen, the Jews have slain and destroyed 500 men in Shushan the palace, and the 10 sons of a man.
They know what?
And the 10 sons of a man.
Again, remember, a man's house where it had to go, because they sought to destroy Esther and her people. Read.
What have they done in the rest of the king's provinces? Now what is thy petition? And it shall be granted thee. Or what is thy request further? And it shall be done. Then said Esther, if it please the king, let it be granted to the Jews which are in Shushan to do tomorrow, also according to this day's decree. And let a man's 10 sons be hanged upon the gallows.
And do what?
A man's 10 sons be hanged upon the gallows.
Read.
And the king commanded it so to be done. And the decree was given at Shushan, and they hanged a man's 10 sons.
Jump down, man, to verse 19. Again, man, they sought to have ill will and to hurt Jews, Mordecai, and it was flipped on. The line is line, done away with. Jump down to verse 19.
Verse 19. Therefore the Jews of the villages that dwelt in unwalled towns made the 14th day of the month Adar a day of gladness and feast.
Again, he say, 14th day of the month Adar made this into a feast of gladness. Feast, read.
And a good day, and of sending portions one to another. And Mordecai wrote these things, and sent letters unto all the Jews that were in all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus, both nigh and far.
Jump down to verse 24.
Verse 24. Because a man, the son of Amminadab, the Agagite, the enemy of all the Jews, had devised against Jews to destroy them. and had cast Purim.
And had did what?
And had cast Purim.
Because Haman came up with this idea, bro. Put this letter into action, bro. This decree that the Israelites and the Jews, that they should be destroyed, that they should be killed, that they should be persecuted, right? This is Pur. This is what Pur was. Read.
That is, the lot. To consume them.
To do what?
To consume them.
To consume the Jews, read.
And to destroy them.
And to destroy them. Prayer was come about to destroy and to consume the Jews, read.
But when Esther came before the king, he commanded by letters that his wicked device, which he devised against the Jews, should return upon his own head, and that he and his son should be hanged on the gallows. Wherefore, they called these days Purim.
So they took what was done against them and turned it into a celebration because they flipped on the heads of their enemies. They brought about Pur to consume and destroy the Jews. But Purim came about because ones that sought to destroy and consume the Jews were the ones that were destroyed. Pur comes from Purim. Purim comes from Pur because Pur is destruction. Purim shows life. Read.
After the name of Purim. Therefore, for all the words of this letter, and of that which they had seen concerning this matter, and which had come unto them, the Jews ordained, and took upon them, and upon their seed, and upon all such as joined themselves unto them, so as it should not fail, that they would keep these 2 days according to their writing.
That they would what?
Keep these 2 days according to their writing.
So Purim, man, is a 2-day celebration, right? Go ahead and finish that last part out.
And according to their appointed time every year.
Jump down to verse 32 and we out.
Verse 32. And the decree of Esther confirmed these matters of Purim, and it was written in the book.
See, this is where Purim comes from, man. Purim comes from Pur. Pur was created to destroy and consume the Jews, but in turn, it was turned upon the heads of the enemies of the Jews, and they took that day and turned it into something black, something peace. And these 2 days, man, these 2 days of Purim are the celebration. Again, man, Esther was unwavering. Took heed. He was wise. Listen. Not waver. Purim will come about, man, for us to joy, be glad that we were able to flip the script, right? And then be first along.